Hello everyone. In this video we're going to design a FPV quadcopter in Fusion 360. I'm going to be designing it kind of off the cuff and narrating what I'm doing, so this isn't a full tutorial. It's just kind of a let's build. So let's get started. Okay, first thing we need to do is make a sketch. So go down here to create sketch and choose the XY plane. And now I'm going to make a circle, pressing C for center diameter circle and using the origin as the center point. And this is going to be a 200mm motor to motor shaft size symmetrical X. So we'll do 200mm. And I'm not going to use this circle to extrude or make a body or anything, so I'm just going to make it a construction line by pressing X. There we go. Now I need to make the arms, so I like to use these slots for the arm primitives, so just set one of them to the origin and the other one out here in space, doesn't matter. And we'll go 30mm for the diameter of that, because the Emax red bottoms are 27.9, 28mm, so this will be just a little bit bigger than the motors themselves. Okay, turn my origin on here. And now I need to set the angle for the arm. So, using D for dimension, I'm just going to make a construction line down here. And then set the angle to that at 45 degrees. There we go. And I want this slot to be snapped to this circle here, so I'm going to go into the sketch palette and use coincidence to assign that point to this circle. And there we go. Excellent. Now we need to have holes for the flight controller, and we'll put that right in the center. So I'm just going to use C for circle again. We'll set the diameter to 3.25, just a little bit oversized for the M3 screws. And we're going to set the height away to 30.5 divided by 2, because 30.5 spacing is what's on most flight controllers. And do the same thing for the horizontal. Now instead of typing all that in again, I can just reference this other dimension, just like that. Hit enter, and there we go. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Now I'm going to do another construction line up here, vertically. Hit OK. Hit X to turn it into construction, and I'm going to trim all this extra off. Hitting T for the trim command. Just trim that guy there, trim that guy there. And then I'll just select this and hit the delete key and get rid of that. Excellent. Okay, now we don't want these to be coming straight in, so let's go ahead and put a line in, and we'll set the distance away from the center on that guy to 30, and do the same thing on this side. There we go. So that's a pretty good start. I'm going to put in the prop area just to make sure nothing is going to get clipped by the props, and we're going to have enough clearance. So 5 inches, and I'll turn that into a construction line as well. So there we go. We have our basics for our arm there. Oh, we actually forgot to put in the dimensions for the holes for the motors. So we'll start with the center hole, which, if memory serves me, is 8 millimeters. Give room for the motor shaft to stick down. And then just creating more and more circles here. One of them is the smaller diameter for the screws is 16 millimeters, and the other one is 19. So we'll put this one in at 19. I'm going to turn these into construction lines. And then I'm going to create another slot. I like to do slots instead of just holes for the motor because that way you can rotate them if you need to have the wires point in a different way. So there we go. And that's going to be 3.25 again. And I can just pattern that around, but I think I'll just manually put them in here. It looks like one of these, there we go, the 19 millimeter dimension is kind of in the way, so I'm just going to click and drag and move that out of there. So if you hover over this point and move either vertically or horizontally, it'll give you a guide and snap to for you. And two more. There we go. Alright, so that's looking pretty good. That's our one of our arms there. We'll add some fillets to these edges here in a little bit. We also need to have a place for our standoffs for the top plate. It's going to help protect the camera and give a place for the VTX and everything to go. So let's put in a construction line. And we want to make this construction line vertical, so we're using the horizontal vertical constraint. Just click that. And most cameras, like the 1177, the Swift camera, they need 19 millimeters is the width of them. So we're just going to put a dimension here of 19 divided by 2. There we go. And I'm going to turn that into construction there. There we go. Alright, so let's actually go ahead and extrude this. So what we want to do is actually we're going to make these guys regular lines. I'm going to extrude this guy, including these, and I'm going to be using 4 millimeter material, so 4 millimeters. There we go. That is one arm. And this is going to be a unibody frame, so we're just going to go over to Create, Pattern, Circular Pattern, and we're going to pattern bodies, that body, and we're going to do it around this Z-axis here, and do 4 of them. So there we go. Hit OK. That's looking pretty good. Now we can bring up that original sketch again and we can see that we've got plenty of clearance here for the props. So we're going to go ahead and join these bodies. I think that looks pretty good. So we're going up here to the Combine command. And this is my target body. And all of these are the tool bodies. And we're joining, and we're not going to keep the tools. We want them all to... I only want to have one body when I'm done with this. So clicking OK. And there we go. go ahead and add a couple fillets in here. I'll actually make these like 20 millimeter. There we go, that'll look pretty good. And we'll do the front and back ones a little bit less, just to give it a little orientation when it's in the sky there. There we go, it looks pretty good. Alright, now we need to make the top plate. Let's go ahead and right click, we're going to create another sketch. And I'm going to display this first sketch just for reference. So I'm going to make another circle, because this is going to be the hole for our standoff. I'm going to use a 2-point circle this time. And we're going to do this guy. The standoffs are typically 4.5 millimeters in diameter, so I'm going to go 5 millimeters. There we go, we've got a center point now. And then this guy will be 3.25. Go ahead and extrude this hole out. You know what, that looks a little close to me. I don't want it quite that close to the edge. So I'm going to go down here to my sketch, hit Edit Sketch. I'm going to change this to 10. Alright, and we're going to make one here that's 4.5, so we actually have the diameter of the standoff to make sure it's not going to hit the prop. And that looks pretty good. That's going to be clearing it with a little bit to spare. We can go ahead and extrude that down and hide these sketches. There we go. Now I'm going to mirror this feature, actually this face. I'm going to mirror that guy about that face to make it symmetrical. And do the same thing again with the other face around the origin there. There we go. Alright, that's looking pretty good. Now let's go ahead and put the standoffs in on these guys. So, creating a sketch. Using C for circle, and we're going to put in a 4.5 millimeter standoff. Whoop. We didn't need that one. That one's for the flight controller. We don't need that one. We're just doing these four. Alright. Now let's go ahead and extrude these standoffs up. We're going to use a 25 millimeter spacer. Now under operation here, if we leave this on join, these spacers will be a part of the frame body. We don't want that. We want them to be new bodies. Hit OK, and there we go. We can see we have a bunch of bodies here now. That's what we want. That way they're all separate entities. Okay. And now I think that's pretty good. We'll go ahead and save this thing so we can start importing some external components and making this in assembly. So we'll hit save, and 5-inch quadcopter. There we go. Alright, now this is the right shape, but it's not the right color, so we might as well make this thing look the part. So if we hit the A key, we can bring up the appearance menu. And what that's going to let us do is if we go down here to other, hit carbon fiber, this twill right here looks pretty good. We can throw that right onto the frame. That looks pretty good. Now for the standoffs, we'll do metal standoffs, aluminum, and let's make them polished aluminum. Actually, let's go with that anodized glossy. There we go. We're going to apply that to all of those bodies. But I don't think we want to use black ones. Let's use a color. So we can right click and hit edit. And let's change them to something different. Let's go yellow here. Yeah, I think that'll look pretty good. Alright, so there we go. Now we've got some standoffs in there and our frame. Okay, let's go ahead and save this again. Alright, next thing we're going to do is go over to our data panel here. Now I've already thrown in a couple of models. This Emax is one that I made. It's up on GrabCAD. GrabCAD.com is a great place for models. This fox ear somebody else made. But yeah, there's a ton of models on GrabCAD.com, freely available, so it's a really good resource. But let's go ahead and throw these motors in here, and right click and hit Insert into Current Design. And it'll take a second, but that will appear in our workspace. There we go. And I'm just going to use the manipulator, drag this guy out, hit OK, and I'm going to do the same thing with the camera. Insert into Current Design. There we go. Now the camera's orientated the wrong way, so I'm just going to use these guys to rotate it around. There we go. And move him into position. Put a 30-degree tilt on him. And he's got plenty of space there. I like that. Okay. So now the motor. We need to get this motor right over top of these mounting points. And you could do that manually, or just use this align command and click that face right on that center point, and then we'll click right on this center point. And bam, there it is. Everything is lining up. Hit OK. And that's starting to look pretty good. We're going to go ahead and pattern this component, this RS-225, or 2205, excuse me, around the origin there, so that we have 4 motors. So I'm going to go to Create, Pattern, Circular Pattern. And this is a warning. It's just saying, hey, I've moved stuff around. Do you want to pattern it how it was or where you moved it to? And I want to pattern where I moved it to, so capture position. So objects, we're going to go to Pattern Components. We're going to select that guy, and our axis, we're going to use this Z-axis here. And this is a quadcopter, not a tricopter, so we need 4 motors. There we go. Hit OK. And now we got 4 motors. Now that's starting to look the part. We can go ahead and get rid of this data panel. We're done with that. Now the next thing we're going to do is put the top plate on here. So why don't we go ahead and use this offset plane command. Use offset plane off of this guy, and we can drag it up, but we can also just select this top face here. Now what that's going to do is it's always going to reference that top face, so if we change the height of these later, everything's going to adjust correctly. So we're going to hit OK, and then we're just going to create a sketch by right-clicking anywhere on that plane and hit Create Sketch. Perfect. Now we have a blank sketch here up in space, and I want to pull in these holes, so I'm going to hit the P button for Project, and I'm going to pull in these guys. I'm going to click that one, that guy, and him. There we go. Hit OK. And now we have, if I hide all these bodies, you can see I have those 4 circles as points in my new sketch. Alright, so now I'm going to make a center rectangle. And I'm going to use the origin as my center. And I'm going to bring him out. Actually, I'm going to hit escape, because what I want to do is I want to bring up that sketch of where my prop is, because I do not want to get too close to my prop. So if I do a center rectangle, bring him up here, you can see right there I'll be touching the prop. So I think what we're going to do instead of a rectangle is we're actually just going to use 4 lines. We're going to come off these guys, and I'm going to hide the bodies to make it easier to see. And it doesn't matter where we put them right now, because we're going to change that. So there we go. They have a coincident on both of these circles. All I need to do is I need to add a tangent constraint, and that should bring it up right in line with that tangent to that circle. And I'm going to do the same thing going the other way. Now if you notice, when I'm placing this in here, I'm moving it up until I get that shows in blue a little horizontal constraint. If I didn't do that, I would just have to put a horizontal constraint on it. And I don't want that. I want tangent. This guy on this guy. There we go. Now I could mirror those, or I could put them in manually. I'm just going to put them in manually. There we go. And this guy onto here. There we go. One more and we're done. Alright, there we go. We got the start of our top plate. Okay, now we can see that the camera is going to be sticking through the top plate. So we need to put in this camera body to make sure that we're not going to have any collisions. So I'm going to use the project command again, but instead of entities here, I'm going to click on bodies. Now when I click on this, it's going to give an outline of that body into my sketch. That's really useful. Now, since it's right along that body, the camera would actually have a hard time passing through it, so I'm going to do an offset by hitting the O button using this offset command, and I'm actually going to push it out 0.5 millimeter. So there we go. Now that's looking pretty good. And now we'll have just a little bit of space between the camera and the top plate. So I'm going to turn these bodies back on, and I'm going to go ahead and extrude this out. Whoop. You see what I did there? I projected it and made my lines off of the inner circle instead of the outer circle. So we should be able to correct for that. No, we're not going to be able to correct for that. We need to make a new one. We can actually do this. We're going to extrude, including the holes here. And this top plate's going to be a 2mm. So there we go. And we're making a new body out of that. Hit OK. Looks good. We're going to right click on there, create a sketch. Hit the O for offset. And this guy should be, yeah, 0.6. 0.6mm offset on that. Now what it did, it made it offset of the whole thing. So we want this guy to come straight across, so we're actually going to hit L for line. And we're just going to come straight down 90 degrees and cut that off because we don't want to extrude that inner part. There we go. So now I can hit E for extrude. And we're going to go -2 because we want to join up with that. Now you see it's trying to join it's the same color as these standoffs. It's trying to join that. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn off those bodies. And now it'll just be joining that top plate. Hit OK. There we go. Now all we need to do is reference this old sketch and extrude out those holes. Alright, get rid of that sketch, bring the standoffs back in, and we've got a good start to this top plate. Now these top sections here, I'm not too crazy about those. So I think I'm actually going to use a fillet command, pressing F for fillet, and I'm going to get rid of those by just selecting these two edges. And it looks like it's trying to keep that edge, so I'm going to select these guys too. If you hit push and hold Control after you've selected edges, it'll go back to letting you select before the tool was applied. So there we go. Alright, 1.5mm radius. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Do the same thing to these edges, but do them in a little bit different radius. Do a 3mm radius. There we go. So that looks pretty good. That'll provide some protection for the camera. If we want more, we can make another body that'll protect the camera better. And this top plate is going to be carbon fiber as well, so we'll hit A for appearance and apply this carbon fiber tool to that. Hit close. There we go. So that's a good start on a quadcopter frame. Now you could add things like sidewalls to this if you wanted, or other features, but that should provide a good starting point. Thanks guys for watching. Please like, subscribe. We'll be having a lot more videos using Fusion with quadcopter design and taking it from simple modeling like this to simulation, determining if your frame's too strong or not strong enough, and then finally CAM for cutting it out on a CNC mill, router, laser cutter, whatever, water jet, whatever tool you have. So thanks again.